In addition, the Pixel 9 series could introduce a new Gemini-powered AI assistant called Pixie, which should inject some much-needed smarts, as the current Google Assistant is frankly about as clever as the average Steven Seagal script.
One of the biggest Apple WWDC keynotes of all time, maybe just because of the state of the world and what everyone expects from tech companies in 2024, which is AI at the front of what you do.
Welcome to the Lucas Tech Podcast, your ultimate guide to the world of technology. Every week we dive deep into the latest tech trends, groundbreaking innovations, and the stories behind the gadgets and software shaping our future. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a professional in the industry, or just curious about the next big thing, we've got something for you. So, plug in, power up, and let's explore the tech universe together.
The owner of Steam, the largest digital distribution platform for PC games in the world, is being sued for £656 million. Valve Corporation is being accused of using its market dominance to overcharge 14 million people in the UK. Valve is rigging the market and taking advantage of UK gamers, said digital rights campaigner Vicky Shotbolt, who is bringing the case. Valve has been contacted for comment. The claim, which has been filed at the Competition Appeal Tribunal in London, accuses Valve of shutting out competition in the PC gaming market. It says Valve forces game publishers to sign up to so-called price parity obligations, preventing titles being sold at cheaper prices on rival platforms. Ms. Shotbolt says this has enabled Steam to charge an excessive commission of up to 30%, making UK consumers pay too much for purchasing PC games and add-on content. The case is what is known as a collective action claim, which means that one person goes to court on behalf of a much larger group of people. Ms. Shotbolt, who accuses Valve of breaching UK competition law for at least 6 years, says she is bringing the claim to stop this unlawful conduct and help people get back what they are owed. Steam is a PC gaming platform where players can buy games and purchase in-game extras. According to VG Insights, it had record-breaking sales in 2023, generating over $9 billion, £7.1 billion in global revenue. This was driven by 580M games sold and 14,000 new games released. However, the market is extremely concentrated, with the top 10 best-selling games making up 61% of all sales. The top 100 games account for 91% of total sales. The claim is backed by legal firm Milberg London LLP, which brings group action cases against large companies. Competition law is there to protect consumers and ensure that markets work properly, said Natasha Pierman, a partner at the law firm. When they don't work properly and consumers are harmed, collective actions of this kind provide consumers with a voice and a way of holding big companies, like Valve, to account. It is the latest in a series of collective action legal cases against big tech. Other claims lodged at the Competition Appeal Tribunal have sought compensation from Facebook, Google, and Sony.
One of the biggest Apple WWDC keynotes of all time, maybe just because of the state of the world and what everyone expects from tech companies in 2024, which is AI at the front of what you do. Interestingly, with Apple this time, Apple had AI at the back half of what they did. Literally the entire first half of the keynote, they didn't say AI once, 0 times. Then the second hour, they basically just went, all right, yeah, we actually do have a lot of AI stuff to share with you. And they just spit it all out. And of course, they did manage to brand it because, of course, they did. AI for them is now Apple Intelligence. But look, I watched and live tweeted the entire 2-hour-long keynote, so you don't have to. And I've gathered all my thoughts, all the most important announcements. So this is everything you need to know that's new, and some of my takes on it. So I'm going to go in the same order that Apple went. I'm going to start with Vision OS, and we're already on, somehow, Vision OS 2.0. Less than half a year after the Vision Pro first got announced. And there are some solid new features, but I don't know if I would call this 2.0 worthy. It feels more like a 1.2 update, but okay, we'll go with it. So there's a new wrist turn gesture to quickly see the time and your battery percentage, and then you can jump right from there into the control center instead of having to look way up at the ceiling like you had to before every time. Kind of reminds me of the Oculus Quest. That is easy, that's an upgrade. There's a bunch of immersive media features, like they let you go through your old photos and use advanced machine learning to turn them into spatial photos, which is really interesting if it works. And there are also new tools to help people create spatial videos and immersive videos on cameras other than the iPhone. But then, of course, you can only view them on a Vision Pro, so who knows how valuable this will actually turn out to be. But then this year, Mac mirroring will get way more resolution thanks to it now doing the foveated rendering. on the Mac. So basically it frees up a ton of resources and it lets you do up to double the resolution. So you could do a gigantic ultra-wide if you want it to be. That is way more room for windows and activities. Love that. And that's pretty much it. Again, it's not the biggest 2.0 update we've ever seen, but it does feel like there's some nice updates in there, including some new environments and the ability to rearrange your home screen. Believe it or not, you couldn't do that before. Now you can. But speaking of rearranging your home screen, iOS just got one of the biggest, or at least most interesting updates in a long time. And I'm just gonna, if you're an Android user, I'd say for the next like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just go ahead and unplug your keyboard for a second and just relax, because yes, we've had these features for a long time, but now it's the iPhone's time to shine, alright? So officially, you will finally be able to put icons wherever you want on the iOS 18 home screen grid. And it was hilarious that this got a whole applause moment from the audience during the keynote, as if they just invented a new feature. But fine, you've been waiting for a long time for this. Have your fun. But they didn't stop there. They added a whole bunch of other customization features to the iPhone home screen too, and it started to get a little more interesting. See, there's this new theme engine now that lets you go in and change the color of every icon and widget on your home screen to the same color. So you can match your wallpaper with your icons to frame it nicely and have matching colors everywhere. It's a simple thing, and we've been doing it on Android with launchers for years. But the thing about these is, before this moment, basically every iPhone home screen looked the same. We've been saying that. They've just given you the ability to go crazy and kind of ruin your home screen if you want to. And people seem to absolutely want to. I have seen some rough home screens people are making on Twitter. A lot of them just look terrible. And I think the main thing I noticed is it seems like there are apps that support this whole colored thing well, and then there are apps that don't, that just looks like it tints the entire, that just literally applies a color cast to the entire icon on your home screen, which causes all kinds of legibility problems, doesn't look good. There are widgets that look horrible, that it's just unreadable. So yeah, you can make some pretty looking home screens if you want, but you can also make some really ugly looking home screens. Now I'm trying to decide if I like this more or less than what Google did on the Pixels with Material U. I think technically it's better because it works on all of the icons. I don't know how many setups I've tried where I want to do the monochrome icons, but there are just a few of my apps that aren't supported, so they end up looking kind of, but they stick out like a sore thumb. So at least Apple's is letting you change all the icons at once. But anyway, Apple's also redesigned the control center to be fully customizable across multiple pages. So again, there's a lot more going on here, and there are many more customizable shortcuts in more places, including finally replacing the flashlight and camera on the home screen without jailbreaking. Finally, and the list keeps going, stop me if you've heard these before, but you can do hidden apps now inside your app drawer, so you can lock apps into a hidden folder that makes it easier than ever to hide Tinder from your wife. There's also scheduled text messages and iMessage. Great. Finally, they're having some fun over there. There's also text formatting, there's messages via satellite. RCS Sport was very casually but briefly mentioned. The Photos app is redesigned. There's also a game mode that now minimizes background activity and minimizes Bluetooth latency for peripherals. Great. And a new automatic categorization in the new Mail app. So you can tell there's been a whole bunch of stuff. I will definitely be doing a larger, more focused, just iOS 18 video, so you can see everything that's new. There's plenty of little stuff that didn't make it into the keynote. So I'll do a whole deep dive just for that. Make sure you subscribe to be among the first to see that. I believe we are catching up to Apple in subscribers. Be kind of nice if we pass them. I'd be sick. So then, AirPods got minor updates like voice isolation during phone calls, spatial audio during games, and the ability to respond to a prompt just by nodding or shaking your head, taken right from the Sony headphones. I kind of like it though. Controlling it without using your voice is nice. Then Apple TV gets this new feature where you swipe down on the remote at any point during a show and it just shows you all the actors and character names of the people on the screen. and any song that's playing in that moment in real time. And there's also a feature that boosts people's voices so you can always hear them over the music. And then watchOS, they got this little training mode that sort of balances the trends in your training over time and evaluates how hard a workout was versus how hard it could have been. And then iPadOS. So this was supposed to be Apple's big chance to really convince us that the iPad it's something special that's got a little something to it that would make us convinced that we'd want to get the newest one, the M4 one that just came out over just your phone or over a Mac. And I'll say, it did get one incredible feature, but it didn't really do much more than that. So the iPad, it gets all the stuff I talk about with the iPhone, right? Full home screen customization, customizable control center, the new Photos app, etc. It's all great. There's also a feature in SharePlay that lets you go in and actually remotely control someone's iPad when they allow it, which seems like a small thing, but I promise you that is massive for family tech support. You know who you are. But the one massive, actually impressive new feature on the iPad in iPadOS 18, and you think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious when I say this, it's the calculator app. It's the new calculator. I promise you, I was so ready to dunk on this. Like, I had how to tweet, like, drafted up as they were talking about it. We finally brought the calculator to the iPad, and there were screenshots of it, and it looked just like the iPhone app. And I was like, really? This is what you were so hyped about. I had that clip queued up ready of Craig Federighi being like, yes, we have to do something super special to finally bring the calculator to the iPad. But then they pulled the Apple Pencil off the side, and they pulled up what's called Math Notes. And it was pretty sick. So now on the iPad, you can actually write down equations in handwriting and it will understand what you wrote, and it'll answer the question in your handwriting. And then if you adjust the equation or add new information or something, it automatically updates the answer, which was so sick. I don't know why I'm so impressed with this, but it was really cool to play with and look at. So if that wasn't impressive enough, it also supports variables, so you can have variables written all over the page. So look at this. It has G and X and A and H, and then it's a labeled Y as the height here. So you can ask for an equation using these variables and it can give you an answer. And if you want, you can do a Y equals equation and it'll give you a graph with a real-time adjustment of any of the variables in your equation. I wish I was in 6th grade again, so this could be my full-time calculator. This is sick. Now, at this point in the keynote, they haven't even actually said the words like AI a single time yet. I think this is pretty clearly AI. This is like handwriting recognition. This is like semantic understanding of all the things happening on the page. It's good AI. Well played, Craig. You did it, okay? But this is before the actual AI section. But also, this wasn't mentioned on stage, but this is also coming to the iPhone's calculator app as well. But then macOS has its newest version. It's called Sequoia, and it does also get a nice little grab bag of new features. There's automatic window snapping now, finally built in. You don't need a third-party app to do it anymore. Sherlocked. There's built-in backgrounds for any app that uses the webcam feed.
The Pixel 9 will be your regular 6.2-inch pocket-pleasing blower, while the Pro is now just as refreshingly dinky. Web rumblings reckon you'll get a slightly bigger screen at around 6.3 inches, but those bezels surrounding it will be a wee bit slimmer, so the hand feel will be just as goosh-worthy. And then for those of us who absolutely insist on stashing something massive in our pants, well, Google is apparently introducing a third model. This should be called the Pixel 9 Pro XL, and it will be the usual 6.7-inch house. And personally, I'm ecstatic about this bugger battery with the regular format. I love that compact hand-friendly design of the regular Pixel 8, but I do also miss some of the Pro features when I'm using it, like that proper telephoto camera lens. Not that temperature sensor. Mind, that's still proven about as useful as a condom machine in a nunnery. However, while those Pro models will rock a smudge-resistant matte backend, the regular Pixel 9 will unfortunately have a glossy arse just like the Pixel 8. I say unfortunately because the Pixel 8's glossy rear does get muckier than your mum after a pint of Drambuie, so I really wish that Google had gone all matte for all three of these blowers. The Pixel Trio will naturally be powered by Google's latest Tensor G4 chipset, yet another collaboration with Samsung, and possibly its last too if Google goes solo for the Tensor G5 next year, which is another heavily rumored bit of internet goss. Now, online posturing today suggests that the Tensor G4 will be a mere smidge of an update over that Tensor G3, at least as far as raw throb and performance goes. And that's certainly backed up by some leaked and less than impressive Antutu scores for all three new Pixels. If it's sheer beef that you're after, you might want to have a squint elsewhere because the Tensor will be all about AI-powered shenanigans as usual. But that said, the new Pixel 9 shouldn't struggle too much with a good bit of Genshin and the latest games. And no prizes or enthusiastic hand shandies for anyone who guesses that the Pixel 9s will come with Android 15 out of the box, complete with various camera and security updates, plus improvements for foldable devices. Hopefully should be particularly good news for the Pixel Fold 2 when that eventually shows its face. Now you can also expect Google to continue its slightly deranged, if undeniably generous offer of 7 years of OS and security updates. In addition, the Pixel 9 series could introduce a new Gemini-powered AI assistant called Pixie, which should inject some much-needed smarts, as the current Google Assistant is frankly about as clever as the average Steven Seagal script. I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator. To the blood bank. Of course, we'll have to wait to see if Pixie is any less likely to make you want to hurl your phone at the nearest wall and then stomp the shattered remains into dust. But that machine learning shenanigans should at least give it a bit of a leg up with more complicated tasks. And apparently Pixie will even work offline, although I'm guessing only for the more simple tasks like setting timers and getting it to say, "I love you," because frankly you've forgotten what those words even sound like. Don't expect huge advancements when it comes to the camera hardware, mind. The Pixel 9 will once again sport a dual lens setup with a regular and ultra-wide shooter slapped into a funky new pill-shaped camera bar. The new compact Pixel 9 Pro will upgrade this arrangement to a triple lens situation with a bonus telephoto snapper wedged in there. And then apparently, according to some web rumors, the Pixel 9 Pro XL will then further upgrade that telephoto shooter, serving up a zoom capability thus far unheard of on a Pixel blower. And if all of that saucy internet hearsay has got you jiggling about in your seat like someone just poured itching powder into your jockstrap, well, you might want to take a cold shower and just calm down a bit because, as usual, Google is not expected to launch these Pixel blowers until the first week in October. As for the pricing of these blowers, well, it's pretty much pissing in the wind as usual, but you can expect the Pixel 9 to start at around the £700-ish mark. You have to bump that up to around $900-ish for the Pixel 9 Pro, and then probably about a cool grand for the Pixel 9 Pro XL. But are you dead set on bagging yourself one, or perhaps you're about as excited as an 8-year-old who's been treated with a day out at the Kidderminster Carpet Museum? Definitely let us know down below. And now it's time for the part of the show that makes that Google Assistant look like a proper clever bastard. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. So last time out, I was basically sat here celebrating the 200th episode of Techspert Weekly and also wondering where the last 5 years of my life have basically pissed off to and how I'm actually still doing this for money instead of a proper job. Ian Brucker 2072 says, 200, how the f*** did that happen? My sentiments exactly, Ian, and it's kind of terrifying actually. Looking back at episode 1 now, which, 5 years ago, it doesn't feel that long ago, but actually looks so reasonably young. Well, no, not young. Young isn't the right word. I basically don't entirely look like a used condom filled with gravel that somebody slapped a t-shirt on. Bonus Baby 801 says it should have had James Corden on for a drink for episode 200. Oh, and spiked it, you mean? Yeah, that would have been pretty good. Jonathan Andrew says, thankfully I managed to get past the mankini part by simply gouging my eyeballs out. Yeah, a little warning for anyone who perhaps hasn't seen last week's episode and is considering going back to watch it. There's some stuff in there that would trump even the most intensive psychological horror films. So yeah, probably a good idea to skip that one. Unless you fancy experiencing your very own Jacob's Ladder-style waking nightmare. Satin Blue says, mankini wallpaper for every computer that I service this year. Jesus Christ, can you imagine taking your computer to a shop to get it defragged or whatever, and then when you boot it up back home again, the first sight that greets you is me in a bit of Borat fancy dress. Pretty sure most people would just douse the thing in petrol and strike a match. I also ably show my age there with a comment about defragging. Jesus Christ. Others Sing Puria says, I was too sober for this one. And to be fair, that statement would probably still be accurate even if you downed 2 pints of vodka. Green Machine says, for celebrating the 201st episode of Tech Spirit Weekly, I suggest you do a re-review of the first phone that you showed us on your channel. What even was that? I'd have to check, to be honest. I think it was like some cut-price Motorola or something like that. There we go. Video was oldest. It was the Honor 10 versus the Samsung Galaxy S8. Full hands-on comparison. Jesus Christ, I actually shot this video on my windowsill in my bedroom because I had nowhere else basically in the house to shoot it at the time. This studio was still my garage. And back then I also covered the Huawei P20 and the P20 Pro as well. Absolutely banging smartphones. I also enjoy how these phones from 6 years ago make my hands look absolutely massive because they're just that much smaller. Anyway, that's enough nostalgia bollocks for another week. Theodore Techers says, be nice to know where you get your anime wallpapers from. If only you could tell me with a catchy jingle. Oh, go on then. Wall.alphacoders.com. Wall.alphacoders.com. That's where my wallpapers come from. Wall.alphacoders.com. Now I'd like to see Chat Bloody GPT come up with an absolute banger like that. Next up, Mythic Suns says you attract some of the weirdest bots in this comment section, or should I say butts, since they just have an arse for a profile picture. Yeah, I honestly do not even know what is going on there. I mean, it doesn't take much to confuse your Uncle Spirit these days, kiddies, but this one has really got me scratching my noggin. I just don't get what the end game is with these arse bots. Like, they don't seem to post up any, like, spammy, scammy links or anything. And they're actually just really polite and nice as well, if you just ignore the fact that their avatars are massive mud flaps.
What happened when 10 teens gave up their smartphones? As part of a 5-day digital detox, 10 Salford teenagers swapped their devices for basic phones that can only make calls and send texts. How did they get on? Will regularly spends more than 8 hours a day staring at his smartphone. When he was younger, he used to love riding his bike. He's 15 now and spends most of his free time after college scrolling through TikTok videos. Last week, Will clocked up 31 hours on social media apps alone. But for the next 5 days, he will have no access to social media. I'm worried how I'll cope, he says. I'll now have to be sociable with my parents. The detox is part of a BBC project looking at young people's smartphone habits, and Will is one of 10 students at Media City's University Technical College who have agreed to trade in their phones for a basic Nokia handset. Almost every aspect of the students' lives will be affected. They've grown up with smartphones and use the internet for everything. They communicate mainly on Snapchat or FaceTime, use Google Maps rather than AZS, and are always streaming music on the go. It's going to be a real challenge, says college principal Colin Grand, who is locking the students' devices away for the duration of the experiment. Ruby dreams of becoming an actor. She says she spends way too much time on her phone and often ignores her parents while scrolling through TikTok. Midway through the experiment, I visit her family. When I arrive, the 16-year-old is putting the finishing touches to her makeup before she heads to college. Her father checks she has her work uniform in her bag, and then Ruby's mother drives us to the tram stop. Ruby acknowledges that having a break from her smartphone has opened up more conversation with her parents, and her mom, Emma, agrees the detox is having a positive impact on her daughter's behavior. Ruby is pretty addicted to her phone, so it just gives her a chance to see what it was like when I was a teenager, says Emma. She's talking more and she's going to bed earlier. It's a nice break. As we approach the barriers at the station, we can see the tram already pulling away. Usually, Ruby would check an app on her phone to find out when the next tram will arrive. Reading timetables on the display board at a tram stop is not something this generation does. Without a phone, I've got no way of knowing, she says. While we wait for the next tram, Ruby tells me about her part-time job at a center for group Nerf games. She works a couple of times a week, but isn't entirely sure if she has a shift later today, or how long it will be. Her manager has given her the office telephone number in case she needs to clarify her hours, but she feels a bit nervous about calling. It shows you on the app what shift you're doing, but I don't know that now, explains Ruby. I never call work, ever. She pays for her tram ticket, her bank card's getting some rare use without access to her smartphone wallet, and we set off on the hour-long journey. For some of the teens, giving up their smartphone has been really difficult. After just 27 hours, 14-year-old Charlie has dropped out and asked for his device back. I knew my phone was in the same building, he says, but not knowing if someone was trying to get in touch with him and not being able to go online was really stressful. Another thing that seems to be stressing everyone out is the status of their Snap streak, a running total of how many days they have sent Snapchat messages to each other. Some students admit they are so concerned about losing the streak, which can sometimes last more than 1,000 consecutive days, they have asked friends to log into their accounts and keep them going during the detox. Like Charlie, other students taking part in the experiment acknowledge a fear of missing out, but most say they are surprised at how liberating they are finding the experience. Some are getting better sleep, they say, while others feel they have been more productive without their phones. I feel like I'm learning stuff and engaging more. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, says Grace, 15. Straight after school, on the first day of the experiment, she and her friends went to buy plastic jewels to gem up her brick phone. Showing it to me as we chat, Grace says the shopping trip was a good distraction from thinking about her locked-away smartphone, and it had another unexpected benefit. It was really peaceful, she says. I really enjoyed it because it got my creative flow back. As soon as I got home, I was drawing stuff and painting. It helped kickstart off finding the things that I like again. In February, the government published new guidance to try to stop pupils using phones during the school day. But a group of cross-party MPs went one step further in May, saying an outright ban on smartphones for all under 16s, not just at school, should be brought in by whoever wins the general election. In a survey of 2013 to 18-year-olds, conducted by BBC Radio 5 Live and BBC Bits Eyes, young people were asked about various aspects of life, including mental health and their smartphone habits. The findings of the survey, carried out by polling company Survation, suggest 23% agree that smartphones should be banned for under 16s, 35% think social media should be banned for under 16s, 50% say not having their smartphone on them makes them feel anxious. Last year, this figure was slightly higher, 56%. Simply taking part in this digital detox has set these teens apart from their contemporaries. In the BBC survey, 74% of young people polled said they would not consider swapping their smartphones for a basic device. After 5 long days, it's time for the students to be reunited with their smartphones. Excitement levels are high as a teacher walks over to the college safe to retrieve them. Several students scream with anticipation. As soon as they've turned their phones back on, the teenagers are glued to their screens, scrolling and catching up on group chats. But most say after taking part in the detox, they would like to find ways to limit their screen time. It's made me realize how much time I spent on social media, and I've realized I need to cut down on it and go out more, acknowledges Will. I'll try and use less of TikTok, that's for sure. He admits it's been difficult, and he's particularly missed listening to music. But time away from his phone has allowed Will to reignite his passion for cycling, something he's determined to continue instead of spending endless hours scrolling. 8 hours a day is just crazy, he says.